right. We are here. And actually, you're not just watching this where Association Chat's going to start soon. It is starting right now, isn't it? So, welcome to Association Chat. I am the host of Association Chat, KiKi L'Italien, and I have to say a quick shout out to Reed Stockman, who is a longtime listener, watcher, supporter of Association Chat. Reed, I saw that you were going to try watching on YouTube today. So if anyone's watching over on YouTube versus Facebook or one of the other channels where you can watch, please say hello to Reed. Start a little conversation. Do a little something there while we're going along. Because while we are talking live and while we're doing this interview, it's really great if you can get a chance to talk to one another. And I think ask your questions there in the group. So welcome to Association Chat. If you are not familiar with the podcast, this is an online discussion where we warm ourselves by the virtual fire with topics of the day, welcoming thought leaders and trailblazers alike to join up in the online home for the community. And I want to ask you a question. Remember that marketing playbook that you had maybe back in late 2019 that was just the thing that seemed to work so well? Do you remember that membership marketing playbook or that member engagement playbook, or are you thinking about that community playbook? There's a lot of playbooks going on, but all of this stuff that maybe was working really well for you, the tried and true, back before this little thing called COVID-19 struck up in March of 2020. Well, I got to tell you, I remember those playbooks, and things are not working out according to those plans anymore. How well are those playbooks working out for you? What does this mean about our approach to sponsorship or non-dues revenue? Is there any difference from what was going on then to what is working now? Today, I'm interviewing guest Angela Bedell for a discussion around community rules, today's community rules, and the opportunity that we have to engage and inspire our members. These are weird, tumultuous times. And in the midst of all of this, how are we engaging? How are we reaching out? And how are we making meaningful connection with our members? Angela has created extreme growth in membership, conference attendance, revenue for dozens of associations. I've known her for years. She's been the chair of ASAE's Marketing Section Council. She won the Most Distinguished Executive Award from Kansas City's SAE. She's known for creating record-setting revenue in the most challenging of situations. And she's just a really awesome person to know. So, welcome to the show, Angela.
Hi, thanks so much, KiKi. Thanks for having me.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here. We have a lot to talk about because this is a big area for people who are looking to try to not just communicate, but communicate meaningfully, to mobilize
Yes.
or to have some kind of impact. So my first question for you is, I started talking about these playbooks that aren't working anymore from back in the day. But I want to ask the follow-up question, and it's how? How have things changed? Why? I won't go to the why. I think we know why, but how have they changed from those times before?
Yes, and we're all really tired of hearing the why, no question.
Yeah.
But no question, our world turned upside down. And in many ways, it sped us forward into areas we weren't quite ready for.
Yeah.
But that base that we work from is what is really different. And the main thing that has changed, well, one of the main things that has changed in our world is the way people connect and the way people form community. And as association professionals in particular, if we were in the business of manufacturing widgets and the way widgets are made changed, we would need to learn that. And the
Mm-hmm.
fact is, we're in the business of people connecting. That's at the heart of everything we do. Everything we think about is those connections, that community. And it might take different forms, and people might be attracted to it for different reasons, but it's at the heart of our business, so to speak. And with that changing, we absolutely have to stay on top of how how. And for
Mhm.
the first time, the way people are introduced to us is different. The way people connect with us is different. I read a statistic, and this was pre-pandemic, that in 2019, I believe the biggest source of new conferences was people who met online and then wanted to meet in person.
Mhm.
And so if in thinking about all that, you know, if the heart of your business is changing, you have to get your mind around how.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, I think that the question is why, so we have this idea of knowing it's important and agreeing that it's important, but I think what I keep seeing, and you can tell me what you think about this too, what I am seeing and what I'm hearing my event professional friends talking about is we went through all of this change where we thought, okay, we're testing out all of these new tools and all of these new ways to get together, and there's all this possibility. And there's a lot of frustration right now because the old ways don't feel like they're the right way anymore. But no one seems to be really convinced that they've figured out the better way for now. They're not really in love with that. So
Right.
so if we go down that path and start talking about that, um, you know, what is it that we're missing? What do you think people are getting wrong? Because, we're talking about community being such an important piece of all of this. What are organizations getting wrong about community right now?
I think it could be one of a couple things. One of them is the thinking that we're back to the old world. And our colleague
Mm,
Jeff DeCagna wrote this wonderful article about what a critical time this is for boards, because foresight is so key, because we're not going back to the way things were. And even if our conference attendance would come back up to what it was in 2019, it's going to happen because of the community. We're not going to
mhm.
go to a conference and create community there. People are going to come to the conference because they feel a part of that community or they want to be a part of that community. So the sequence in how we think about things is part of the solution, so to speak. But the idea, as you said, the playbook out the window, and the ideas of DEI, inclusion and membership retention, actually at their core, there's a bit of a Venn diagram overlap. But why don't we talk about those things in the same, in the same conversation, the strategy should align. So there's a lot of just new paradigms in the way that we
Mhm.
do our work, in nonprofit professionals and association professionals in particular, I believe, because people are at the heart of what we do.
So, what are the areas that you think are the most critical for association success in 2023?
So there's obviously a long list, but I've narrowed it down to four that I feel like are the most important. And so one of them is a digital presence.
Mhm.
One of them is inclusion and
Mm.
all the elements of DEI, but inclusion in particular. Leadership, more critical than ever, and profit. Even for a nonprofit, making a profit is going to be important. We're going to have to think differently about having the resources to do the work we need to do and to advance our mission.
And so, I know that you are getting ready to do something with all of this information. I know because I'm excited to
Part
be
of it.
involved in this a little bit. Yeah, and how did these four areas that you just talked about, and you talk about inclusion, leadership, digital presence, and of course profit. No margin, no mission, right?
Right.
Um, so how did those aspects of association success play into what you have coming up in New York, and what is coming up? Let's
What is
talk
coming
about
up?
yeah, let's talk about that because I want to explore. You're applying all of this in a sort of experience, it's a little bit different than what I am accustomed to seeing. And so I want to talk about how that came to be, but let's talk about how you've put this thing together and what it is.
Sure. So community rules, and definitely more than one meaning to rules in community rules, correct? And it will
Yes.
be more than one aspect to this experience on these 2 days in New York. So it is an intense 2 days of learning, no question, an intense 2 days of learning addressing the most critical topics to set associations up for success in 2023. I hope 2023 and beyond, but we've all learned, what we need to get done right now. And so, our most difficult questions that we're facing, the things that are going to really separate those that thrive from those that survive and those that don't, are going to be in these four areas.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. And so, community rules is going to be an experience, I hope, like no others. Yes, it's intense learning. It isn't so much um, it is a sharing of ideas, but it is the most important, most up to date information. And it's a little bit different than maybe association professionals are used to thinking about. Um, Personally, my biggest successes in my decades long career have been around making money, adding conference attendance, improving finances, things that we don't think of as the most important in association professionals traditionally. And all of a
Mm-hmm.
sudden, those things are very important, very important. Now, when I said it's not like other events, and as you said, we're going to not just learn, but do.
Mm-hmm.
So the learning will be advanced and intense, but also practical, kind of Monday morning ready thinking and ideas. But the doing will be Monday morning done. And so if we can talk about the digital piece specifically for a second, Kiki, the digital piece, we're going to have an agency for a day right there at our little event. And this group, which is more like a mastermind,
Mm-hmm.
a small group of folks who will support each other. So we will be getting organic engagement pod. We will be taking pictures, and my team will be making the post of the attendees and talking about the wonderful things they're doing, the smart thoughts and ideas they have, and pushing them out. So, the reason that's important is that I really believe a lot of folks who are attracted to association work are not good at boasting. They don't brag on their achievements. So, we're going to do
Yes.
it. We're
Yes.
just going
Yes.
to do it. And I also want to be clear, there's a lot of myths around digital, and you know one of them is I don't have time. I don't want more social media in my
Mm-hmm.
life. I don't want anybody to have more social media. I think that the key to well being is unplugging more often, and more likes and more shares and more fans and more followers isn't really it either. It has to be smarter. It has to be well done, but it actually should be less done, done less.
Mm-hmm.
So, I just read, let me see if Weber Shandwick, this study I just read last month, that the high level executives in most organizations, if you ask them to rate their CEO amount in transparency and openness and honesty, the CEOs that got the highest rankings as open and honest from their top team members, okay,
Mm-hmm.
86% of those were very active in their social media. Now,
Uh-huh. Yes.
so another reason it's crucial, if you just Google yourself, I would be real surprised if the top things that came up were not LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, whatever. And so it doesn't really matter that you have a lot of followers, but it does matter that you've said something smart that sounds like you.
Yes.
The
Yes.
authenticity and a genuine approach is going to come from what you put out there into the world. The other part of it is that association professionals tend to want to toe the line of, well, I don't have time for that. I give my life to my organization and be a martyr, or, fall on the sword for the board and that kind of thing. And what they don't realize is that the organization's image is dependent upon their image being
Mm-hmm.
positive.
Yeah.
The organization's, you know, perception, I'm just going to say, right? And the good news is that we can actually shape that a little more than we were, at the mercy of just the media or just what other people said. We can actually shape that a little bit. And I mentioned, I have to also add this, an engagement pod. And I don't know if everybody knows what that is, but you can pay to belong to a group that all agrees to like each other's post or that all agrees to comment on each other's post. And people spend $3,000-$4,000 a month on this. The thing is that sometimes in my business, like I have good friends that are realtors, but realtors commenting on my business post doesn't really expand my digital business presence.
Hmm.
And so by building an organic engagement pod of people we have met and know, and we might not all think a lot alike completely, but we all think about the same things. And so we're going to be able to build that into this experience, kind of like the top level mastermind group, if
Hmm.
you will. So that's the doing piece. We will be putting digital posts out there. We will be, I hope, making new friends and colleagues. And we do have a little bit of buy-in from attendees that they're going to support each other, in our own little chats and in forums like this, but also in measurable ways in the digital people. So
I
pod
want
people.
I know. I
Kevin.
want to take a second. And because this becomes an audio podcast, I need people to understand why I just kind of broke into laughter and what we're talking about with pod people. Kevin, who's watching, and hi, Kevin. He wrote pod people, invasion of the body snatchers. Yes, we get it. This engagement pod idea, by the way, is so good. It's one of the things that really excited me when you started talking to me about what was going to be happening with this experience, because this is really like a mastermind, the engagement pod, and you have the sort of digital agency that is happening. Let me tell you about what that means to me, because a lot of people ask me about things that they can do to boost their personal brand or to get their name out there. And, association chat has been around for a long time, but I do speaking and I do all of these things. But I didn't always, it's not like that started like that from day one. And so I'm almost always talking to a couple of people who have reached out that are wanting to do something because they're in a career transition or they're wanting to raise their profile for some reason. I've worked with people who are consultants who want to get back into working for associations and vice versa, right? And, people who are working as an association professional, an executive who wants to go out on their own, and they're wanting people to start thinking about them for their own thought leadership. And what I like that you're doing is that at this experience, it's not just connecting and getting to learn together and all of that, but this actually applying it, putting it into practice, and then walking away with something where you have collateral for yourself, collateral for your
Right.
career, something that's going to elevate your professional profile so that you're able to show examples of others, backing up what you're saying, of connecting with others who will help support you, but also of actually looking good, doing what you do. How many of us have that? Like every time I go speak, I'm like, did you get a picture? Are you going to get pictures? Are pictures involved? Is there video
Right,
involved?
right. Well,
And
and
that's
I
a
shared
lot of
with you,
money
I'm
for
an
people.
introvert in the Myers-Briggs test,
Yeah.
and I go to a number of conferences. I bet I've been to hundreds, but I don't necessarily connect with people quickly enough when I'm with different people in a different breakout every hour over 3 days.
Yeah.
And so the hope is that there will be, 2 dozen new best friends and online and offline, and
Yes.
to kind of set the stage so that and give the structure that happens automatically.
Yes, absolutely. I also want to go through really quickly because I want to show some love. Reed was saying, I'm going to try YouTube today. Didn't see anyone on Facebook the other day other than you and the presenter. And I'm like, I know that's terrible. But see, it's that presence. When you are visually able to see that somebody's out there, you're making yourself top of mind. This is a perfect example of that. But Reed, I see that you're over on YouTube, but I also see that Kevin and Amy were commenting back over on Facebook. So I hope you found some people, some friends. Amy, when you said, I agree, it's about community and having longed for it, people aren't understanding that things can't go back. Absolutely true. And Amy, I've been thinking about you too, because I've been seeing some of the things that are happening that you've been posting about. And I just love that you show up for your community all the time. Just such a great example over there at ASAE. And Kevin is hilarious, and I feel like he always shows up as himself every time he's commenting, and he's just known for his intellect and his great humor. So good stuff. And
Very
Amy
good
says
stuff.
support. Facebook user, you're anonymous, but you say hi, y'all, and I'm saying hi right back. So Angela, okay, I am super excited about this event coming up. It's not really an event; it's an experience because it's all of
Yes,
these
that's a
things
great
pulled
word. That's
together.
a great word. We've got an agency for a day, a digital agency, kind of a future thinking boot camp around four critical areas, an organic engagement pod, and a bit of a mastermind experience. And
Yeah.
isn't it interesting that we're in the business of community and we sometimes don't prioritize building our own professional community?
Oh, it's so true, and we rely on it, don't we? I mean,
Yeah, it's so
it,
important.
as Amy was saying in her comment, we definitely learned during the time when we had to hunker down and a lot of the travel was reduced. People were connecting in a way. Now, I know Angela for a long time that you have been active online, and I'm also somebody who is actually more introverted than one might think, and it's easier for me to interact online. So I'm a lot more able to connect with folks like this than I am in person. But I think that an event like this, an experience like this, it does do something where you're able to make the most of it. And it does make it so that even if you're one of those people that it takes you a really long time to connect with others, that it's built in. So it's not socially awkward, that it's built in, that you're
Yes.
going to walk away with a benefit from that. And you're not going to be left out in the cold because you're not the person that wants to get involved in the interactive portion of the session, right?
Right, or you haven't gone to that meeting for 20 years, or
Right.
you just don't know, or you're just of a personality that requires a different kind of connect.
Hmm.
And so we'll be setting the stage for that to happen.
I think it's so important that these conversations keep happening, that we talk about these topics, because for sure, when we're thinking about the profit side of things, that's always something that's really important, but that looks a little different. What worked before doesn't necessarily work now because things like sponsorship is a big popular topic right now. The
It is.
sponsors the sponsors did some of the virtual, they tested things out with some of the virtual environments, and we're not always happy with what the outcome was. What does that mean for them? What does it mean for relationship building, or how you construct your next offer for them, or engagement, potential for them when
Right.
when you're talking? I mean, what have you been hearing about this?
Um, so you're absolutely right. I couldn't agree more that a lot of sponsors thought, their first question, and I had this experience. Well, we used to pay for this dinner and
Yeah.
someone got to stand up, and now you want us to pay the same to be on a call and get to say something. And you know, there's no dinner. So what are we sponsoring? And that kind of drives me crazy. But I've learned to take a deep breath and explain that these people don't come together by accident.
Hmm.
All right. These people, if anyone who's been in sales knows that getting three people to come to lunch at the same time takes some real wizardry. So I think our approach to sponsorship is being forced to get back at the heart of the value of our community and understanding it so that we can sell it better. and
Yeah.
understanding what the power is they can do. So that's real important, changing the way we think about that in sponsorships. But I also believe that association professionals have to understand what's going into the pro forma and perhaps build it differently from the outset so that their board and their leadership understands what they're going to make a profit on and what they aren't, as opposed to that old world where you were a good ED if you could make $100,000 on the conference, and this year you only made 50, so you must not be as good as the one before. No, 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 no.
Yeah.
And so bringing the leadership on board with the idea of how we need a profit on certain things, not everything,
Yeah.
and that what our bottom line has to look like, and doing that in a way that keeps them engaged and excited about the organization and our offerings. And so there's profit kind of seeps over into leadership, and leadership seeps over into digital. And inclusion, as we know, is under everything we do. So that's another reason that these four topics and the experiences related to each of them are so important and so critical for the next 18 months in particular.
Well, and I think I was just reading about it, I just tweeted about it maybe 30 minutes ago, an hour ago. One of the things that we keep seeing is that because of climate change, it's not even because of the pandemic at this point, but because of climate change, more and more organizations are not just are they making proactively making the decision to cut their carbon footprint by reducing the amount of travel that's happening. But more and more employees are expecting them to do it. More and more people are expecting them to reduce that carbon footprint. So even if they're not looking to do it necessarily, like they don't want to proactively do it, more and more expectations are being made that they will or they should. And certainly, I think that as we see more and more climate events happening around the world, the pressure is mounting on that. And so, one of the things I've been paying a lot of attention to is, we learned a lot of lessons during the time that we couldn't meet. We were excited to get back to where we could, but I don't think that we can afford to leave behind a lot of the advancement that we've made, because this idea of not being able to travel as often or having those travel budgets cut is definitely a reality. And so, as I'm reading these things from the travel industry, and everyone's kind of trying to forecast ahead, what does this mean? I think that it is important, even in the inclusion discussion, because not everyone can afford to, not everyone is able to, for all kinds of reasons, to do
Right,
the
and they
physical
have to
travel.
choose carefully, and
Yeah.
they'll, even if the climate change impact wasn't, right on something quantitative,
Mm-hmm.
you know, it the aligning with values,
Mm-hmm.
members, but employees. I heard the other day, employees are the new consumer.
Oh,
So
wow.
this takes thinking about the profit we'll make, but also you have to think at the same time about leadership principles and your authenticity with your employees. How are you going to do all this at once?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, and I feel sometimes I feel guilty of virtue signaling or something, because I talk about a lot of these topics a lot because they weigh heavily on not just my mind, but these are hot topics in our industry. And I'm hesitant to say like look, I have too much plastic. I have too many deliveries from Amazon that show up on my doorstep. I'm not saying that I'm not guilty of a lot of this. But I do wonder every time I'm taking a trip, for work, business related, I'm thinking, is this going to be something that is both worth the carbon footprint that I'm doing. Like, do I really need to be there in person? Am I really going to get a lot out of it? But also, since the pandemic, is this worth the time away from my family, which I'm
Oh,
evaluating in a whole new
absolutely.
way?
Yes, and you're right. The carbon footprint is a thing. Values are a thing. The indirect cost to the business of you not being in the office 2 days,
Yeah.
and then the personal cost. I'm
Yeah.
gonna. So, um, I I am very happy and I'm very pleased that we've designed a 2-day event that I don't think you could get a better return on your
I know.
investment for the 2 days or the money. I was very sensitive to that. I'm in business for myself, so
Yes.
I may be, more sensitive to that than most, but, um, I feel really good about, um, what will come for folks, what they will take home in tangibles and work that gets done and in new learning as well. Plus, we're gonna have
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Well, yeah. And I have to put this, I'm going to put this around the bottom too. And for people who are listening to this later, there is a code. If you go to abcommunities.com, and I showed another URL earlier, abcnyc.com. They both resolve to the same. So either way, you're good. abcommunities.com. Code KiKi, you're going to get a $950 discount. Now, I know that sounds silly sell, but you also know, if you know me at all, I like never do this, right? I never talk about like get the discount, blah, blah, blah. Here's the thing is I'm not saying anything that I wouldn't do myself. I will be there for the experience myself. Angela walks the talk. She it was very kind in looking at knowing that I'm very close to my daughter. Anybody who follows me on social media knows this. And she was like concerned about making sure that if I wanted to bring my daughter along, that there was a way that I could do it. And I see that shift happening for a lot of conferences that maybe moved away from doing that in the past, where it wasn't focused on bringing family along. This is hugely important to me. And that was such a different sort of approach. The whole way that this has been crafted is crafted in a way that you're going to get as much value as possible from it. So I think even if you didn't think about it in any other way, and this is the last thing that I'll say that's going to be, I feel like I'm pushing, but I don't mean to. But the thing is that I try to pay for some sort of branding or marketing or look at pictures, getting pictures done. And I work that into my budget for every year. And as I'm nearing the end of the year and I'm making the decision on what I'm going to do before the end of the year, I just think this is a cool way to be able to go do some professional development. It's like you're knocking so many things out at one time. You get to do some professional development. You get to connect and like actually learn and create these connections with other professionals. You get to have like collateral for yourself that will help you in your career. And whether it's you're trying to just stay on top of your game, make yourself more marketable for whatever reason, it's going to be good. But it's also New York, and and
Right, New
going into
York
this at
during
that
the
time.
holidays.
I
That's on a
mean,
lot of people's bucket list,
it's
and
just so
whether
cool.
you wanna we're ending at 1 o'clock on Friday for a reason, okay?
Yes,
And I
yes.
don't believe that we are 2 separate people, one personal, one professional. The fact is that when you can give someone some quality of life or something fun during a professional experience, it actually elevates both.
Yeah.
And there's nothing like the energy of New York City during the holidays anyway. So it's perfect time to bring your family. And if you don't know what to do in New York with your Friday afternoon, I am so happy to help you with some ideas.
Well, I want to thank you. I know I took it down. Angela was telling me before, I don't want this to be like some sort of advertising thing. And I hope that if it did come across like that, it is not because she
Well,
wanted it to.
no, but let me
So,
add to that. The fact of the matter is that if you give people a discount and a deadline, as a very small business owner, I have a virtual
yes.
team of 7. as a small business owner, it helps me with the cost of putting on the event if I know sooner how many are coming.
Oh, well, then by
And
all means, let me put this
it's so
back
it's
up.
a very it's a very
Realistic.
legit, authentic, "Look, here's what
Yeah,
we can do." It's kind of like a transparent Groupon. Remember those? I haven't done
I
that in a while.
do.
But the idea is that if we know sooner, it's actually more expensive for us to add people later,
Yeah,
and especially in New York City during the holidays. So it's a sharing, if you will, and so this discount is very legit and
hmm,
um, as authentic as you can be. And the fact is, we all need to get off the dime and register for things at some point. So we need a
it's true.
motivator, right?
It's true. Oh, yes, advert, yes, but still very informative session. Thank you. Thank you. Yeah. And if anybody wants to ask me what, like when I'm showing up or combine efforts or whatever, collaborate, reach out because I'm super excited. We've been talking about this and as Angela's been putting things together and making her plans, I've been like just over here going, okay, okay, okay. I can't believe that this is real, but I'm super excited because I love going to New York City. I love the chance to connect. And I know, I mean, this is going to be kind of a unique experience for me too. So,
It's going to be wonderful. It's
yeah.
going to be wonderful.
Somebody asks CAE credit. So, Facebook user asks CAE credit. Um, Go
It,
ahead,
it
Angela.
qualifies as the learning, not as there's different levels. And
Yeah.
so I'll have to answer that later. But yes, it does, but not at the specific. Um,
Yeah. Okay. So Angela will be able to get into specifics about that a little bit later. If you, Facebook user, sorry, I can't see you. If you want to reach out to Angela, I can post in the comments a little bit later the email address.
sure.
And that might help. Or Angela, if you want to
It's
share.
Angela at AB Communities.
Okay.
AB as in Angela Bedell. So
Yeah.
Angela at abcommunities.com. I'd be happy to answer that or any other question.
Excellent. So, is there anything else before any final thoughts to share about engaging a member community? And we say post pandemic, even though we know we're still kind of in the throes of it. But
Right.
any final thoughts to share about this before we move on?
Just, I think, restating what I said at the beginning, community rules, as in the rule book has changed, and we
Hmm.
do need to cuss and discuss and learn new rules. We need to borrow from the business world, we need to borrow from other leaders, and community rules, as in community rocks, right? It's at the core of what we do, and it's very important to pay attention to it in some very specific ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much. And
Thank you
Angela,
for having me.
yeah. I think that if you're up for it, and hopefully you will be, then I will do some interviewing while we're in New York too, just so people will get
Yeah.
an idea of kind of what's going on. But I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me today.
Thank you for having me.
All right. So, what did you think? I'm so excited that I am a part of this whole experience. That Angela reached out. I'm excited that there are already some people that are signed up to be there. So I know we're going to have a good time. But I'm looking forward to having this experience. December 1st and 2nd in New York City. And, it's going to be absolutely phenomenal. If you need a reminder of where you want to go, like where to check it all out, go to abcommunities, plural.com, abcommunities.com. And if you do decide to, sign up, be sure to use the code KIKI and you're going to get a discount from that. But I hope to see you there. And I also hope that if you have any stories or questions, problems that you've been facing with engaging your community in these I'm not going to say crazy, these outrageous times that we are currently living in. go ahead and put them in the comments. It'll be something that we can talk about as we're doing this session, this boot camp, talking about these topics. And I'll try to report back what I can about some of the lessons and learnings that we discover while we're there. So with all of that, I hope you've learned a lot from this discussion today, and learned something of value that will help you in your life and career. And until next time, everyone, keep asking questions to learn every day. As Joseph Campbell once said, the cave you fear to enter holds the treasure you seek. Have a great rest of the week, everyone.